Hey, welcome back. Got some new parts for the Vanquish VRD carbon, and we're going to try and get them in there. So, I picked this up from Reefs. I got some reef bucks in the process. New header cards, super like the new packaging, but this is the variable winch mount for the VRD and stance, and we're going to see how it goes in here. And I got a little bit of take apart to do based on how I mounted my winch using some cutoff pieces from a 10.3 axial truck from their winch mount. So I got spacers and I got all kinds of stuff going on in here, but this is what I come up with. Thankfully now there's a winch mount, and we can get this back into factory, or yeah, we'll call it factory parts, factory and aftermarket instead of the home brew. But I got a little bit of disassembly to do. I'll get that done, and then we'll get to installing this bad boy. All right, so got all the stuff out of the way, cut some zip ties, marked my motor wires just in case I gotta separate them at some point. But just pulling all that stuff back out of the way so I can get this thing in here. I mounted up the winch. I used the Reefs spacers, or the servo washers. I like the little green on there. Kind of goes with the body on this truck. But yeah, the screws go in from the bottom. These servo stays, aluminum with the Reefs logo. Mint, love it. Basically, this is going to go right in here. I do have the stubby mount. So my speed control is up here on that bracket, but it looks as if everything else will go in there. The gaps here, because it's going to go through this hole, I have the inner fenders as well. So if you're kind of optioned up like this, yeah, there's a couple little things to go around. But I also run a different bumper, so I'm going to have to put in spacers in here to get my bumper bracket back in place. But that's where we're at so far. I think some of my hardware can get shortened up a little bit from my previous. Reef does give you new hardware to go with this, but I think I'm going to be in pretty good shape. Yeah, I'm going to have to put some spacers on the outside and the inside with this, just because of the TGH bumper mount that I'm using. But I think we're going to be pretty solid here. So let's see if we can get this. Yeah, so it's not too bad, not too shabby. Just a little longer hardware. And actually the Reefs, the hardware that Reef put in here is pretty much the same as the black his is the black hardware, I have stainless, and they're pretty much the same length. So even with the TGH bumper setup, you can still use his hardware, which is pretty good to see. I'll grab another driver. And I'm not going to lock these down until I figure out these spacers that I need. And it looks like I'm a little shorter on that one. Maybe double up these. That's going to be pretty close. So yeah, this is pretty much the only thing that's a little different from what your experience is going to be, I'm sure. But if you have the stock bumper, it'll just slide right in there, and you can just put the screws right in it. So let me get some spacers lined up and we'll come back and see a finished product. All right, so got it all back in, and I was an idiot. I was using the wrong hole. So the rear mount of the Reefs bracket is back here. I wasn't using that one before, so it threw me off a little bit. I was trying to use this hole and it wouldn't line up. So it's this hole, and this is the second hole that goes into the actual bracket, and then this is just a second bumper mount screw. So like I said, I'm using a TGH bumper, so it throws things off a little bit, a little wacky. But, you know, just putting some hardware in on, get some light over here. Just putting some hardware in the front just to keep the bumper from going up and down, just stabilize it. This spacer back here is a 3mm spacer, fits in there perfectly, no issues. I used some 3mm spacers from K&K Hardware. Comes in clutch. Always have those handy. If you don't have a set of spacers sitting around, you're going to need them eventually. So pick them up. Even with the stubby mount, with that ESC mount all the way up in the front, my Micro X2 clears the mount. There's no pressure between the X2 and the Reefs mount, so that's perfect. I'll just need to tie my motor wires up one more time. I just zip tie them to this upper brace. But yeah, that's it. If you wanted to run a micro servo winch, it would bolt right in here, put the spool right down below. If you think that's enough, these trucks do very well, and I think I've only used the winch maybe twice since running it. So, you know, maybe a micro 179 winch would be enough to pull this truck. This one's only at, I think, like 4.2 pounds or something. It's pretty light. You know, keeping all the plastics and as much as possible. But yeah, that's definitely a very good solution, and it still stays well below the inner fenders, so the hood clears, no issues there. Body still goes on like a champ, and looks like I didn't do anything, but did lots. So anyway, get out there. This is the variable winch mount from Reefs RC products for the Vanquish VRD and stance. So thanks for watching. See you next time.